Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus on the Out of Bounds show. So you feel like Mac Jones will hang around the league for a while? Do you have that kind of confidence? Yeah. Do you have that kind of confidence with Tua?
Man, I have less confidence with Tua. The more information I get, I had confidence in him coming out of Alabama. I thought he just looked small last year. I just thought he looked small, and I thought the ball didn't come out of his hand that great. He just didn't look like an NFL quarterback, to be honest. I think he's got elements. Tua's got elements of his game where he works really fast through progressions. He does a lot of things nice. He does a lot of things well. But I always thought at Alabama he would have to see the guy, watch him make a break, and when he was open, he could throw the ball accurately. And he obviously didn't have that last year with Miami's group of pass catchers. And then you have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's like, "Oh, you're not open? Well, you're open in my mind. I'm just chucking it up there." and that was the difference. You saw that when Fitzpatrick played football versus when Tua played for the Dolphins. Now this with Will Fuller, with Jalen Waddle coming in, they still have Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. I think Tua's going to be better, but they're starting to test him out, right? We're gonna know a lot more about Tua this year with this group of playmakers. That offensive line still has a ton of questions too, but I've lost a little confidence in Tua, I would say, since the college evaluation.
And when you look at this, would you say this is a make or break for him, or because he was a first round pick? Sometimes first round picks get second and third. Especially, I feel like first-round quarterback picks from blue blood programs. You think he gets, obviously, this year and maybe next? How do you see this playing out?
I think it depends on how bad it is this year or how good it is, right? So I do think teams are a little bit smarter as far as moving on. The quarterback position is just far too valuable to just give a guy an extra year just because you invested in him. It's not. I think they're getting smarter, and I think we have to change the way we look at teams and say, I look at Washington and Dwayne Haskins, and I say, look, would you say he's a bust or it was a bad pick? Yeah, I mean, obviously it didn't work out, 15th overall, but I don't hate the process of taking Dwayne Haskins, who could have been a good quarterback, and he wasn't, and then you move on, right? It's not like the football team is not, they're not bad for the next 4 years now because they made that move. They gave them a year and a half. They moved on. It's still, and they still have to find a quarterback. They had to find a quarterback a year and a half ago. They still have to going forward. Fitzpatrick's a bridge there now. So I think the Dolphins can view that the same way. We took a shot on Tua. We gave him 2 years. Okay, we're back in the quarterback market, right? And maybe it's the veteran market, or maybe it's the rookie market. So yeah, I think teams are better at moving on. And I think the Dolphins, the way they've built their roster, they've done a lot of smart things. And if Tua, doesn't do it this year, I think they're going to say, okay, we have to start moving on. We can't just force him out there just because we invested.
You heard it from Steve Palazzolo, Matt Corral to the Dolphins. So there we go. And we'll start monitoring that next spring. What about Daniel Jones with the New York Giants? I mean, where are we? Joe Judge, by the way, Mississippi State alum, but Joe Judge, head coach at the New York Giants. Usually the Mara family shows a lot of patience. They went through some hiccups the last few years. Where are you with Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback in the NFL? And do you think that Joe Judge is sitting there going, this is your year, buddy, and if you can't get it done, we're moving off of you?
Yeah, this is his year, too. It's almost like Tua's getting tested, I think, a year early. Tested as in, like, being supported with good pass catchers. The Giants have done a great job of adding Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney. They've already got Darius Slayton as a deep threat, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram's there, Saquon Barkley's there. So you have all these pieces. Now, Jones in the Giants right now, I also ranked their offensive line 32nd this week in my offensive line rankings. So they've got some work to do there, some question marks. If the offensive line's a disaster again, it could be rough. But I've changed my tune on Tua coming in. I haven't changed on Daniel Jones. I thought when he came out, he reminded me a little bit of Nick Foles, where Nick Foles went on that ridiculous playoff run. He's had other times in his career, Foles, where he's looked great, and then most of the time he's looked not so good. And again, it's almost certainly dependent on who he's throwing to and a little bit of luck. Foles has this aggressiveness where he's just going to chuck it down the field. He likes getting hit and throwing it and doesn't care. And I think Jones has a lot of that. And you saw that his rookie season. He made some incredible throws down the field. But last year, the Giants had one of the worst supporting casts in the NFL, and the statistics were terrible for Daniel Jones, even though I thought he played much better than the stats would show. So I really think perception of Daniel Jones is going to fluctuate with what's around him, and it depends on how much you're willing. So it just puts pressure on the team builder. Give him a great supporting cast. He has a chance to go on these runs, make some big downfield throws. But if you have a bad roster, I think you're going to get bad results. And I know that sounds cliche, but Daniel Jones in particular, I think, is going to, kind of be just a product of what's around him.
And so if you had to call it, where does this go? He's a backup after this year?
I think he'll have his best season. The O-line, I think, will be a little bit better than my 32nd ranking, but I think Jones will. He shows enough flashes that he'll lurk around. And I'm also thinking the Giants and Gettleman might stick with him longer than, say, the Dolphins would stick with a Tua. So part of me is dependent on what I think the decision makers are going to do. I could see Jones kind of sticking around a little bit. Hey, Eli didn't look good his first few years either, and they've been comparing Daniel Jones to Eli, since before the draft. So
yeah, and that's the whole David. The media does that just because David Cutcliffe coached both of them, and right. They're kind of, I guess, similar builds, and they're with the same team. Okay. So Eli flipped it. Eli kind of. I think where you're going there. So Eli struggled. I wasn't really monitoring that closely those first few years. Obviously, it was year 4 or 5 they win the Super Bowl, but he it took him a little while to get up and running. Steve.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things where you could always show talent. Eli always had talent, right? It was like he had a better arm than Peyton, and he could throw the ball outside the numbers, and he was tough, and he did all this stuff. But on the field, you just didn't see great production. 04 was his rookie season, 05, 06. Even in 07 when they won the Super Bowl, it wasn't like Eli. It wasn't like everybody watched him and said, all right, he's figured it out. This is, great Eli. He wasn't even that good throughout much of the year. But Eli always had this volatility to him where he was aggressive and he could make special throws and all these things that I was saying. And when you have that, when you have volatility, it just takes the right combination of pass catchers and everything coming together. And you go on this run or this stretch. And, there's a lot of quarterbacks. I think Jameis is a quarterback that's like that, right?
Interesting.
There might be a lot of bad in there, but when it all comes together, you get fireworks. And I think that's what we saw for much of Eli's career. There were just these spurts of really excellent play, including the 2 playoff runs. All
right. Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus. Do you think that the Cowboys don't let Dak let it rip enough? Like they have micromanaged him to the point where, because you got to have. I know it's a fine line for y'all running the numbers, but there are moments where you have to have a little gunslinger in you. I know people run from that because maybe Favre and others have done it too much. But what do you see with Dak and maybe the too conservative approach out of the Cowboys camp?
I think what I've seen from Dak is, just efficiency-wise, he's been really, really good. And I thought they unleashed him a little bit last year, almost by necessity because of the defense early on. But the numbers we ran before the season last year were, watching how well guys graded when they threw the ball 40 times or 50 times. And this is where Brady's just a star, right? A lot of times when you say, hey, go win the game, quarterback, it's a challenge, right? You want to have balance and all that stuff. Like Brady's the one guy who you just put it in his hand 40 or 50 times and he's even better, and most quarterbacks get worse. But Dak was really on the low end of performance in games where he had to be the guy. And I was actually a little surprised. I wasn't surprised by it because I think looking back, I'm like, there haven't been a whole lot of games where Dak had to win it from start to finish, where other quarterbacks have had to do it. Games where you're just taking the run game away or you're taking certain things away and the quarterback just has to work the quick passing game and take shots and all that. So I think that's part of it. Dak has struggled a little bit in what I'd call high volume games when you have to throw it 40 or 50 times. So I think that's a valid criticism. However, in normal game script games, so to speak, Dak's been efficient and been excellent. So I think he'll get better at some of the high volume stuff. But I think if Dallas feels more conservative sometimes, it is because historically, I don't think Dak's done great in those particular situations.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there. Steve Palazzolo.
Tedeschi Trucks Fireside Live. A series of special limited capacity engagements. This Tuesday night, Brandon Amphitheater. A stunning display of musicality and reverence. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Tedeschi Trucks Fireside Live. Produced by Red Mountain Entertainment.
From the Whiskey 61 Lounge, it's Mississippi's only food sports show on the airwaves.
We're the only World Food Championship host in the state.
This is the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds.
All right, excited to welcome in Scott Sanders with Welcome Home Beef and now a new RV park in Starkville, Mississippi. But we've been talking about Welcome Home Beef for months. They had a great weekend last weekend for the regional or regionals, and now we got the super regional Saturday, Sunday, and possibly Monday. So you're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. And Scott Sanders with Welcome Home Beef joins us live in studio. You can watch it on Facebook. We'll wave to you. Search the Out of Bounds Show, and Scott joins us on the Modelo guest line. Scott, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great. Got a little wet this morning on the way here, but other than the monsoon, everything's good. Getting ready for the weekend.
Y'all had a great, before we get into the RV park, real quick, y'all had a great weekend last weekend at Welcome Home Beef for the regionals.
We've had a great summer. I mean, it's just been really unbelievable, the support that everybody's, giving the store and everything. And we've been able to kind of lower some of our prices because we're doing a lot of volume now in a lot of different grocery stores. So probably got the best, well, I know it's the best hamburger meat around, and it's probably the cheapest right now, to be honest with you. We're doing hamburger meat like $2.89 and doing short ribs and tri-tips and back ribs, and you wouldn't believe it. I mean, the customers that have come in the last few weeks has just been phenomenal.
All right, so how long has the Sanders family been in the cattle business?
Before I was born. I mean, it's been a long time. Since the 73, something like that, probably. I mean, it's been a while. That's awesome. My dad actually started his own order buying business in 87. Then we kind of took it to another level a couple of years ago, went into going ahead with the beef.
Sure.
And now we're wholesaling that beef literally, all over the state, a couple of different states. I mean, delivered like 1,000 pounds of brisket last week to Central Barbecue in Memphis, Tennessee.
It's awesome.
Olive Branch is really tearing it up.
What's the store in Olive Branch?
It's the Piggly Wiggly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's one of your bigger stores that y'all are doing.
They are. We've got another store in Corinth that's just doing amazing. And the stores in Corinth and Pontotoc, I mean, they're doing like 100 cases a week. It's literally unbelievable. Like we went from a little small refrigerated trailer to a 26-foot box truck, and now we're filling the box truck up 2 or 3 times. I mean, it's been nuts. And then we picked up another store, Vowels, gave us Demopolis, Alabama.
Nice.
And then, a restaurant right around the corner from here, Papitos.
Yeah.
Oh, you would not believe.
They crush it.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, we thought, okay, well, that's going to be a nice little account. No, I mean, they're like, bring us more, bring us more, bring us more,
Good.
So they're Uno Mas, Starkville, Uno Mas.
I love it. That is a cool spot.
Yeah. So, everything's going well. I hope I haven't really left anybody out, but we just really appreciate all the support. You guys have done a great job promoting us. I'm glad to be here, and it's been good.
Scott Sanders with Welcome Home Beef. All right, now y'all have got a new project in Starkville, an RV park, and tell us about the project and what's going on.
So, whenever you're in the cattle business in a growing town, eventually you're going to get in the development business. And so Dad was always kind of, half in the cattle, half in the development. About 20 years ago, he created a little project called Steel Plantation, and it was on a 460 acre, cow pasture where cattle, used to be raised. And so we put a road in there. He put a road in there and started developing it. And now it's, pretty much sold out. We've only got about 5 lots in there. We've got some bigger lots, 3 acre lots in there. And I think we got 5 more of those for sale. But anyway, we've had this 20 acres that has been in our family for quite a long time, and it is like, I don't know how to describe this 20 acres. It's literally 8 feet above the road. You drive straight up a hill going into it. It's got from $300,000 to $1 million houses surrounding it. Right down the street, Coach Leach's estate is right there that he just bought. They're putting another neighborhood in behind that lake.
Right down Old West Point Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of prime time to be. And what we as a family didn't want to do is have it be like another kind of just like concrete jungle. So we've started doing some designs on it a few years ago, and we decided the highest and best use for it was, instead of putting like apartments on it, let's do RV spots. And so we came up with a plan for 35 different spots where people could buy and own a lot to park their RV during the weekends, whatever they want to do. So we're introducing that, and we're going to start taking reservations on those lots.
For our listeners, it's not but 1.3 miles from the Hilton Garden Inn and Suites. I mean, it is close to the action, so to speak. The Hilton Garden Inn and Suites is 2 minutes from Duty Noble, so you can do the math real quick. If someone is listening and they're interested in grabbing a spot in your new RV park, who do they need to call, or where do they need to go?
Well, if they're Welcome Home Beef customers, they can run by our office there at Welcome Home Beef, or our store.
Perfect.
And, ask us about it there. We've got some marketing materials we can give them, whatnot. Or they can, shoot me an email. My email is scottsandersemail@gmail.com. We're pretty easy to get a hold of. Facebook, Welcome Home Beef, Twitter at Beef Home. So just reach out to us, and we'll get you some information on that.
And you're going to have 35 spots.
There's 35. Yeah. And we're going to take reservations for them. So we believe that we can have, and depending on this weather, I mean, if it keeps on raining like this, it'll be tough to get it done in the summer, but there'll be about 10 of them that'll actually be ready within the next 60 days.
Okay.
So we already have 3 rental houses out there. So there's already electric, water, sewer, and road in place. All we have to do now is subdivide a few more lots, get Fort County to come out there and finish the electricity, and we're kind of, we can go ahead and move on about 10 of those lots.
So 10, you can take 10 reservations, and that's going to be ready by mid-August.
Yeah, I mean, we can take reservations for the whole thing, just understanding that there's only going to be about 10 that are available for football season.
Got it.
The rest of them will be a year out.
All right.
So
you can call Welcome Home Beef in Starkville. You can stop by Welcome Home Beef in Starkville, and you can find Welcome Home Beef on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Get in touch with them. If you're in the RV game, not a better deal. Drive up on a Thursday night, have everything you need,
right.
Hang out all weekend. They're 1.3 miles from the Hilton Garden Inn and Suites. Hilton Garden Inn's 2 minutes from Duty Noble and Davis Wade. So the location is fantastic. It's just down from, as Scott said, Mike Leach's compound.
yeah, exactly. And he does have a nice place.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. I've got a funny story about that place.
Yeah, we got time.
I've actually got a souvenir from the lake that he lives on. So, and when I was growing up, my best friend lived in that house.
Okay.
All right. So we're swimming in that lake one day, and we're playing some kind of Rambo, BB gun war kind of thing. Took a BB right in my temple, right there in that lake. So
that's your tie now to Mike Leach's
It's
compound.
my tie to Mike Leach. I can't help it. I had to say it.
If you tell him that story, you'll end up having a 40-minute conversation with him. Seriously, because that's how he works.
Probably be about not playing with BB guns in the water, something like that.
No.
Yeah.
I think they had to tell him not to swim in the water at night, but that's another discussion for another day because we've only got another minute. Yeah. Scott Sanders with Welcome Home Beef. They are developing a new RV park that is 1.3 miles from the Hilton Garden Inn and Suites in Starkville. 10 of the spots will be ready for football season. So they're taking reservations for all of it. But if you want to go ahead and jump in, it's just right down Old West Point Road. And you can go to Welcome Home Beef in Starkville. You can call them. They'll eventually get you, because Scott's running around doing all the wholesale stuff too. They will eventually get you to the right Sanders family person and get you hooked up. What's the name of? Do you have a name for the?
Tentatively as Cottonwood Trails.
Okay,
that's what we. Yeah.
All right. New RV park in Starkville, Mississippi, and they will have 10 spots ready in the next 60 days for football. Scott Sanders and the Sanders family with Welcome Home Beef. New RV park right down West Point, Old West Point Road, 1.3 miles. I got 20 seconds.
For sale. They will own the lot themselves.
They will own the lot.
They will own the lot.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, so they are for sale, and they'll have 10 spots ready for football season, and you can go to Welcome Home Beef to find out more information. Bam. And get a great steak at Welcome Home Beef. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone, WRKS. Your SEC Insider Hit is brought to you by Welcome Home Beef. Super Regionals in Starkville. Stop by Welcome Home Beef Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and load up on premium beef, everything from steaks to hamburger meat and everything in between. Welcome Home Beef, Main Street in Starkville. We're going to go to the Modelo guest line. Welcome in Kyle Peterson, KP, National College Baseball Analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network. He called the Ole Miss Regional last weekend, and he'll call the Mississippi State Notre Dame Super Regional this weekend. Kyle, good morning. How are you, bud?
Good morning. I'm great. We're here. We finally made it to Supers, man. We pulled it off.
You know, this state is barely functioning at this point, KP.
Good. That's as it should be.
I mean, people have lost their mind in a good way, because to say that we've got the college baseball fever is an understatement. You got the Revs heading out to Arizona, and obviously the Dogs hosting Notre Dame. I'd like to start with Ole Miss. That was a hell of a regional. You've gotten to see them play throughout the year. Bianco has a phenomenal club, and that's even with Hoagland down, and what Elko's doing with the torn ACL is amazing. What was your one big takeaway from the Ole Miss regional, KP?
Well, they pitched it enough. It felt like as you go on in regionals, usually it's going to get more offensive because bullpens are more beat up, and you're dealing with 3 and 4 starters and sometimes 5 starters or whoever it may be. But I thought that they pitched it enough, and to me that's the only question. I think they're going to defend. They're solid defensively. They're going to hit. It's just when you get past Nikhazy, where do you go next? Nikhazy Broadway is an easy. That one we got figured out, but then what do you do in between all of that? I think that's really for me. That's the only question right now for Ole Miss, and if they get a few guys that can step up, either extended bullpen time because you're going to need it, or a few starters that have shown signs over the last few weeks. If they get 2-3 guys that step up, you got call it 6 that you can point to on an entire staff and say yes, those are our 6. Then they get a chance to make a real run.
KP, Kyle Peterson on the Modelo guest line, ESPN SEC Network, talking Super Regional Baseball with the Revs and the Dogs. What do we need to know about this Arizona team? Strengths and weaknesses, or if they even have a weakness. But what do we need to know about this Arizona Wildcat team, KP?
Well, I think you got to start with the ballpark and the environment, because it's unlike any ballpark in the SEC. It is. It's an old spring training site. The Rockies used to be there at High Corbett. It's huge. Now, it's like playing at Coors Field in that, are there significantly more home runs? No, not necessarily. But the gaps are where Arizona, if you go look at Arizona's numbers every year, they're going to be top 10 in the country in doubles and triples, because outfielders have to play so deep, and ultimately there's balls that'll land in front of them. Ball gets in the gap, it's at least 2. It could be 3. So ballpark is a part of it. And honestly, when they go practice, that's one of the biggest things from an outfielder standpoint. Because Hoover, depending on wind, Hoover can play a little bit bigger, but ballparks in the SEC are not necessarily known for being big. And they're going to a big ballpark. And it's not just the home runs, it's the other hits that come as a result of the size of it. From Arizona's standpoint, they're offensive. They're built to be offensive because of where they're at. But there is some from a pitching staff standpoint. There wasn't last weekend. Games 2 and Game 3, they really pitched it, and that was the key. Because if they pitch it, there should be enough offense to get there. But I think the biggest thing is just environment. I mean, hell, it's going to be 105 or 110 or whatever it is down there, and understanding the ballpark that you're playing and how it plays.
Jay Johnson's done a great job there since leaving Nevada. Tell me a little bit about Jay Johnson, the Arizona Wildcats head coach.
Well, he's intense in a good way. I mean, he played for the national title, whatever it was, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They all kind of run together sometimes. But and he seemingly did that in a fairly short period of time. But he's been really impressive since he's been down there, and he's got a coaching staff too. And I think it's important when you kind of look at the entirety of this. Nate Yeskie was the pitching coach at Oregon State when they won the national title, is one of the most well-respected pitching coaches in the country. He got Nate to come down from Oregon State a few years ago. And then Dave Lawn has been there for a long time and has been around college baseball for a long time. Dave was a coach and I was playing. And so he's got a staff that is top-notch. I mean, it's when it's comparative, you would compare it to any staff in the entire country. So I think you start there. And with Jay, he's a guy which is important, because if you're going to go out and get the best, I think it's important to delegate to him. But at the end of the day, he's just really intense. And he's built a sustainable program down there. And he's got some kids that can play. I mean, the Barry kid, the freshman, has got a chance to be a real star. It's for people that haven't watched a lot of college baseball to plug in this weekend, between him, Gonzalez, McCants, you're going to see some of the best freshmen in the country.
KP, Kyle Peterson on the Modelo guest line, national college baseball analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network, and he joins us on the Out of Bounds show. It's extremely difficult, I think, to handicap baseball, but if you had to do that for this regional, is it a pick'em or you go 55-45 Arizona? How do you see this, KP?
I think pick'em's fair, but I think if you're Ole Miss, you got to win the KZ pitches. It just feels like that. And you can figure out a way. You're going to get a good outing from somebody the next 2 days. I don't know that you know who somebody is right now, but the talent is clearly there. That's just consistency's been a challenge. The guy that's been so good for him is Doherty. I mean, they've found one that they can go to. Doherty's been outstanding. It wouldn't shock me if Doherty ends up starting game 2 or game 3 down there and they pull him out of the bullpen. But, yeah, I think 50-50 is fair in this one. That's the way that I would look at it. I haven't looked at the Vegas line. I'm sure it exists right now, but that feels about right to me.
Yeah, it's Arizona minus 127, Ole Miss plus 100, so it's right there in the pick.
It's right there.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to, Elko real quick. What about what Elko has done since coming back from the ACL injury?
I think what impresses me the most, and it's just in talking with him from afar a few different times, is just the kid and the maturity and the leadership and when you talk to him, then I think you look at it and go, oh yeah, if anybody could do this, it's him. He's a great leader, and he's going to be a great leader at whatever he does in life, whether he is fortunate enough to play baseball for the next 15 years or gets into the business world or goes and coaches or whatever. I mean, there's just guys that you don't have to be around very long, and you immediately realize, yep, that's one of them. That's one that people are going to line up and follow. And he is that guy. That obviously what he's doing offensively is, I mean, essentially unheard of. But what impresses me the most is just the kid and the leadership qualities that come with it.
KP, Kyle Peterson on the Out of Bounds show, talking college baseball. Sorry. You're listening to the Out of Bounds show on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Let's go to the Mississippi State Notre Dame Super Regional. So looking at this Notre Dame team, what do Mississippi State fans need to know about this? Because this looks like it is a pick 'em actually on the odd. What do they need to know about this club, KP?
Well, they've been insanely consistent all year. I mean, I think they only lost one series. That was Florida State. Besides that, now they played 4 non-conference games, and I think they played Valpo 3 times. So everything's within the ACC. And I mean, you can take that as a positive or negative, but that's just the way that it's been. Cavadas is a blast to watch. I mean, I'm old, so I mean, he's like Steve Balboni. If you go back 25 years ago, just big left-handed monster power. Hit 5 home runs last weekend. There is some swing and miss there. There was a lot of. He's also really patient. I think he's more patient than people think at the plate. Aside from that, there's just a lot of consistency in their lineup. I know that if you hadn't watched Notre Dame the whole season and paid attention to it, and you watched them last weekend, the first thing you'd say is, man, are they offensive? And they were for 3 days. Really hadn't been the case all year. They've been fine offensively, but it hasn't been anything close to what it was. What they've been is really consistent from a pitching standpoint, and they've been really good defensively. They can catch and throw with about anybody. I don't think anybody on the team's got more than 5 or 6 errors the whole season. Granted, they played a few less games, but they're fielding in the 980s, and that's a big number for a college. Not a ton of swing and miss, so you're not going to see the swing and miss numbers that you see on State's pitching side. But if you can pick it up and throw it the way that they do, they're not afraid to throw to contact. So, you're not going to see as many 95s and 96s and a bunch of hammer breaking balls and swing and miss, but you are going to see some guys that can really pitch.
Bednar McLeod will go. Then it's kind of TBD. So when you think about Bednar rolling out on Saturday, how does that matchup look to you, Bednar against the Notre Dame lineup?
I like Bednar against any lineup when he's right. I think that I'll just tell you from a scout standpoint, I get a lot of "What do you think of Bednar?" questions because he's on their radar to go pretty high, real high actually, because the stuff is real good. When I've seen him right, it's mid 90s and kind of an easy mid 90s. It looks like there's more in that body. It reminds me a little of Lance Lynn. Just of size, the way that he approaches it. You see, if you just watched him, you wouldn't think he's throwing 95, and then you look at the gun, and you look at the hitter reactions, and the off-speed stuff has been outstanding. So, when he's going, man, he can. You can put him stuff-wise with about any starter in the country. But clearly, the environment's going to be a little bit different this weekend.
Landon Sims continues to impress. And that guy's coming back, KP. He's got another year before getting drafted.
Yeah, that probably makes you feel a little bit better, Chris. You're going to get, he'll probably make the club. I think we'll figure out a way. You just kind of, some of the relievers numbers this year are so fascinating to watch. Whether it's Sims or what Cops has done at Arkansas, I've never seen anybody do what Cops has done.
Incredible.
But you got the guy at the back end of the bullpen that you just, you know that when you hand the ball to him, you got a pretty good idea what's going to happen. And if he's striking out 2 per 9, that's or 2 per inning, that you just don't hear numbers like that.
Man, I was watching that Nebraska-Arkansas game the other night when Cops went, 90 pitches or something? Golly.
He came in the third inning. And he pitched in each. He had already thrown 6 innings in the regional. Here's the stat fascinates me. He leads he hasn't started a game. He leads Arkansas in wins, saves, innings, and strikeouts. And he hasn't started wins, saves, innings, and strikeouts. I've never seen that in my life, ever. And I don't think I'll ever see it again.
KP on the Out of Bounds show. Kyle, the lineup at Mississippi State's been hit and miss. Rowdy and Tanner, really good. Tanner's been exceptional. And then there's just depends. There's a big drop off on the back end. They've had some struggles even in the middle part of the order. How does that lineup match up with Notre Dame's pitching, KP?
I think it matches up fine. You got 2 vets that have been around this time of year, and more than that, but those 2 guys have been in the middle of it. It seems like for the last 4 or 5 years. And you just got to get another few to jump on board with them. I think you run into some issues if Rowdy and Tanner have a rough weekend. I don't know I don't see that being the case, but no, I think this lineup matches up fine. The biggest thing, and this you guys saw this 2 years ago when Stanford came in. The environment got Stanford. The environment clearly affected Stanford. Those kids that haven't played on the West Coast, we don't have environments like that. Well, really, nobody has environments like there in Oxford and now Knoxville and whatever, Fayetteville. You go through those. I'll be interested to see how Notre Dame handles it, because in those situations, I think you can see it on TV, And you can think that you've played, oh, no, we played at Florida State and it's loud. Yeah, it's not like that. It's not like that. And I'm always, this time of year, interested to see when the teams that haven't played in those type of environments go into that environment. That's why it makes it interesting for LSU going to Knoxville. I mean, the place is going to be absolutely bonkers. They've done it. They know. So I don't environment. I don't see environment affecting LSU potentially this weekend as much as it could potentially affect Notre Dame.
I asked you this last time. How about all the chippiness in the league? I mean, we were referencing Van Horn and Tony Vitello last time, but Maneri made some comments coming out of the LSU Tennessee weekend. We don't see. We're a football show, and of course we cover more college baseball than any other show in the country, but we don't see that in SEC football and SEC hoops. Yeah. And we've had more of that this year, KP, than I can ever remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I like it, but
I think some of it's kind of healthy.
Yeah.
It's it makes it, from a fan standpoint, it gets them interested. I mean, listen, you can like Tony Vitello, not like Tony Vitello. I don't think he gives two rips either way, but I'll tell you this. What he has created there from a fan base and an environment happened really quick, really, really quick. And now it looks like they're going to do some incredible stuff from a facility standpoint. So I'm fascinated to watch this one that weekend because LSU's got it going as good as they have the entire year. The young kids are continuing to hit. Marceau can really pitch. And that one, I'd be really sad that one doesn't go 3 games.
Yeah, we need Tony Vitello to stay in the East. Especially with Slosh now going to A&M, and if LSU goes Pat Casey or whatever's going, well, let's jump into that. Kyle Peterson, national college baseball analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network, joining us on the Modelo guest line. Were you surprised that Schlossnagle left TCU to go to A&M?
No. I think that. There had been plenty of rumors before, and I'm sure I know he had some discussions before, but this one felt like it was going to happen. It kind of felt that way from the beginning, and it's probably time for everybody. What he built at TCU cannot be overstated. I mean, TCU went to Omaha 4 times in a row, and the environment that they created, the fan interest that they created with a sport that historically it just didn't have it. It didn't have it at all. And I hope that that's not overlooked by a fan base at TCU. And they're going to go get somebody, whether it's Kirk Saarloos or Bill Mosiello, who are currently there, they go get somebody else. I mean, you're coming in with a lot to work with in an athletic department that supports you. And from Schloss's standpoint, it felt like at some point this would happen, not necessarily to A&M, but to something like that. And I think there was a part of him that wanted to get in that league and just experience that league and be a part of that league. And now he's in it.
Cal Peterson on the Out of Bounds show. What do you make of Pat Casey possibly as the leading candidate for LSU?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, obviously Case, won 3 national titles, kind of like Schloss. He built it at a place that had no baseball history before he got there. My assumption, and I haven't talked to him through this, I talked to him probably 3 or 4 months ago just about not coaching related things, but my assumption in this is that it's just whether or not from a family standpoint it's a move that they want to make. It did surprise me a little. That wasn't a name that I thought would be at the top, not because I don't think that Case could go in and do what he's done at other places. It's just Corvallis, Oregon, and Baton Rouge they're not terribly similar. The situations are a little bit different, but intriguing, I'll say that. And if it is Case that goes down there, it's another shot in the arm for the league. Not that they need it, but I mean, if you get Pat Casey and Jim Schlossnagle to come in as the 2 coaching changes in the offseason, guess what? The price of pool got even more expensive.
Well, you hit on this last week, Kyle Peterson on the Out of Bounds show. People in Starkville and Oxford, Baton Rouge and Fayetteville, they know who Lamonis, Bianco, Van Horn, Maneri are, right? Grocery store, kids' games, whatever. I mean, people know who you are, how you're moving around. It's probably not like that in Corvallis. It may have been once he won big like you're referencing. He went 11 years without going to the postseason, which is incredible. Yeah. and then boom, goes to the CWS and wins it two years later. That's a factor, though, don't you think, as he kind of looks at this, KP?
Well, I think it needs to be for everybody. I think there's certain programs, and you just referenced them, that are different. And it's different because you always got to be on. You just do. And if that's something that you're not comfortable with, it's probably a place that's going to eat you up over time. And there's a lot of people that's the environment that they want to be in. They want to be in a place to where people are that passionate about what they're trying to do. But I think I would say most that probably can't handle that. And I would think that's the challenge of athletic directors at all of those types of schools is when you go hire a baseball coach, you're not hiring a baseball coach. I mean, you're hiring to face your program that needs to be able to be out front with the fans and go to the events and do everything that the job entails. Mm-hmm. You become a CEO. You're not, you may still hit ground balls, but you then become a CEO. And I would assume that that's a big part of what the search is at those places because it's a lot more than coaching at 7:00.
Do you have another name or two for LSU that you want to drop that they could be looking at?
I'll let Kendall do that.
Okay. I was asking my buddy who hosts Afternoon Drive in Tuscaloosa. I said, how many of your listeners do you think could name the Crimson Tide baseball coach, Bohannon? And he said 10%. And so it just goes to show you that, like we were saying with Lamonis and Bianco and all these dudes, I mean, it's everybody knows who they are and watching them move about. So there is a lot more than just, like you said, going to practice and coaching games. All right, KP, you're calling. Go ahead.
Let me be really quick. What I would say to that, though, is Alabama can be Tennessee, right? Like if 5 years ago, before Tony got there, if you would ask Tennessee football fans who your baseball coach was, would more than 10% have known that it was Dave Serrano? I don't know.
No.
But look how fast it can change, and it can happen at a place like an Alabama, like a Kentucky, that maybe doesn't have – back in the Jim Wells era, there was a lot of Alabama baseball.
Oh, yes.
It can spin, and with those they're diehard fan bases, but you kind of got to prove it first. But once you prove it, those environments can spin just like the other ones.
We'll leave it there. Kyle Peterson on the Modelo guest line, National College Baseball insider and analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network. KP, we appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Okay, enjoy the ride, guys.
So there you go. Ole Miss in Tucson this weekend playing the Arizona Wildcats. That was a Colorado Rockies ballpark, minor league ballpark that they will be playing in. And according to KP, the place is huge. The gaps are just as wide as the Mississippi River. So when you get it out there, some things could happen. Doubles and not just bombs, doubles and triples for Arizona and Ole Miss. And that's a pick'em right here. And you can bet on this at the Golden Moon Casino, but it is basically a pick'em. And Mississippi State Notre Dame's a pick'em. So we'll see. We're going to be back tomorrow live at 10 a.m., a little different deal. Live at 10 a.m. from the Greenville Country Club for the Steve Azar Celebrity Charity Golf event in Greenville. Who knows who we're going to have on the show, but they're always fun and interesting, so we're looking forward to that. I'll be smashing some steak at Doe's tonight, so that'll be fun too. Want to thank Scott Sanders with Welcome Home Beef for dropping by this morning. As you're heading to Stark Vegas today and tomorrow and through the weekend, stop by Welcome Home Beef in Starkville. Just take a cooler. Go ahead and load up on premium beef. Also, their new RV park. It is literally a little over a mile from the Hilton Garden Inn and Suites, and they are taking reservations, 10 of them for football season. You can go to Welcome Home Beef for more information.